Because at age 18 here, you're just entering an S, or maybe you're entering school and whatnot. You haven't entered the workforce yet.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you won't enter the workforce yet until after you graduate, till in your early to mid 20s. So you don't have a really idea how everything around you works, so to speak.
I think another reason that Singapore has a very short campaign time is because it's not very big countries.
Right.
Like,
I mean, again, I think Singapore runs on efficiency, and they don't want to be bogged down with months and months and months.
Months of like, oh my gosh, when's gonna,
right.
yeah. 欢迎大家来到频道。现在有一个很熟悉的面孔 ，Dr. Jeff 又来到了我的频道。大家很喜欢 Dr. Jeff 的知识，所以我又请 Dr. Jeff 来。其实新加坡刚刚结束了一个非常重要的一个事件，新加坡刚刚结束了它的大选，所以我们在做一集关于大选的规则，还有一些他们怎么样运营，跟美国或者其他国家有什么不一样的地方，我们就做一个比较。当然，小编也是会把中文字幕放在下面。OK， 我们就不要浪费时间，我们就现在开始 ，Let's go。Dr. Jeff, welcome back.
Oh, thank you for having me again.
again.
So might as well give it a try.
Yes, maybe a permanent host in the future?
We'll see about that. I guess if there's a topic to be discussed, then maybe. If there's something of interest, then maybe. But because it was the polling day and the campaigning going on, that we figured we might as well give our input, being foreigners, kind of relate that to how they do things in America compared to what they do here. What we thought overall. And then we're recording
Culture shock for us.
No, we're recording this like a few days after it.
Because we understand there's a quite strict polling day advertising, and we don't want, based on our opinion, to sway any voters. I mean, I don't think we will. We're not really that influential, or are we? Okay, so we have been to quite a few U.S. elections in the past. Actually, when I did a little bit more research, I realized actually the Singapore election rules and regulations, they're quite different and unique in many aspects. So today we're gonna dive into that. Okay. So when we talk about elections, U.S. elections usually is about years, right?
Well, there's a setup for it. When you have the U.S. election there, too, they have their nominee, they have their primaries. Their primaries are usually around, like, if you talk about the last election cycle, it's obviously going to be Trump, but before they had to do that, they had to go through the whole primary system, the Republicans did, in order for them to have the elected official. Same thing with the Democrats, but it was already kind of nominated with
because basically the current president he will continue as a primary. So if you don't know what primary is, it's basically in US each party will pick their so-called the top MVP players.
The Democratic Party and then the Republican Party will nominate or whoever wants to be nominated goes into it. And essentially you vote for your representative for the election then too, if you're a Democrat or Republican then too.
Yeah, so the party decide whether or not you can be a capable candidate to run for your party. So I think in Singapore we don't really have that. We don't have like such as a primary, but the candidates is announced by the party. So we don't know if is there a certain like electoral process to decide who will be the best candidate. Maybe there is, maybe there is not. So please comment below, educate us, I guess. So although Singapore is a very, very small country, when I talk about campaign period, we minimum have about 9 days to campaign compared to US,
which is ongoing
year.
I mean, now they're going to have the midterms coming up, so they're eventually going to do it within a year when they come up then too. Typically it happens in November, but the following November after that, that'll be the midterms then too. But they start campaigning months ahead of advance, and then it isn't official until they have their convention. So Republicans and Democrats will have their convention party, and then that's when it's made official that this is be the person that represent. And usually it's about 3 or 4 months prior to the actual voting. But up until then, you kind of already know. It's just they're always campaigning as it is.
And during that time, usually the media is super, super popular. Who is wanting to go? Who is going to be in the primary? Who is the ideal candidate? And if you have any dirty news, this is usually times the whole tour starts surfacing.
After they do the treatment here, Alhamdulillah, it's very, very light in my body. My name is Eddie. Sometimes people know me, sometimes people don't know me. If my cat inside my shoulder, everybody know me, who I am. I have sickness in my shoulder. Quite sometimes, my neck, my rib, and my back. After I know Dr. Jeff and Dr. Jenny and this kakak here, after they do the treatment here, Alhamdulillah, it's very, very light in my body. Just now I want to want to fold back my hand, very pains. Right now, I can fold my hand until here. I can pull until here. This side, I can go everywhere. Release stress, release everything. Great, I can give you 10 to 10. Honest, bottom in my heart, 10 to 10. My body be released a lot of things. It is honest to my heart to tell you. This is not because of review, because of my cat Bumblebee, everybody know because of what. No, I am sick. I keeping my sick. I don't like to go doctor. I don't go to massage my body. I don't like to do anything. This is my first time to do all this. But sometimes I scared to see people do crack, 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 crack. I scared. But after I did this, for our health, for ourselves, need to try. Thank you very much.
I think another reason that Singapore has a very short campaign time is because it's not very big countries.
Right.
Like,
I mean, again, I think Singapore runs on efficiency,
Yeah.
and they don't want to be bogged down with months and months and months.
months
of
are
this.
like, oh my
So-
gosh, when's gonna,
Right.
yeah.
And I think they just said, let's get it done, let's do this, and go ahead and move on with our lives, get back to our daily activities.
Because before the run campaign, the parliament needs to be dissolved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
So you
when-
can no government for like entire year.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So Singapore has something quite unique. Is you have this GRC system, which is like a group representation constituency. Each state can give how many people?
Depends upon the population and the electoral college. There's three separate powers. You have the House of Representatives, the Senate, and then you have the presidency. The House of Representatives, I think, is like 400 and
The
35?
House usually have more.
yeah,
more
435,
people, yeah.
with California being the most, and then you have something like Wyoming. But the Senate is represented by two seats from each state, and they can be Republican or Democrat. So there's going to be 50 members of the Senate then too as well.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's all about checks and balances. So they're represented there, and they also represent districts. And each state also has their own representative too. So they have their own state assembly, their own state Congress, their own House of Representatives then too. But if you want to go federal, that's when you talk about everything in Congress.
Yeah, exactly. So in here, that was quite unique with the Singapore is the GRC system, which is a team of member of parliaments, the MPs, so not just individual. I guess they are choosing that also based on how many people in the constituency. So I feel like it's kind of like a group project, right? It can be the weakest number of the team, but if you have really, really awesome group members, you automatically
Good. I mean, you could tag along.
Yeah, tag along.
I mean,
Yeah.
there may be that one or two person that just kind of is there, maybe
Yeah,
the cheerleader in the background.
yeah.
Well, there's a few others, and you've probably been there, a few others that do all the work. And you have the other person down here that's like, oh, okay, I'll
Yeah.
find something to do.
So we don't know.
Don't know.
We don't know,
Obviously,
yeah.
you want your one who's most experienced
Yeah.
to kind of lead the way then too, and then maybe
Yeah.
they can pass the baton on.
Exactly. So I thought that was a quite unique structure, the kind of GRC, like, if one P cannot handle, you have a group of MPs representatives. So like other countries like Malaysia, UK, obviously US, don't have such a structure. It's quite unique. Then they have this cooling off day, so which is like 24 hours before the polling days. No advertising, no
Nothing going on.
online, offline, no campaign, no rallies. So what do you think about that? I think the US campaign
No, they
minute.
go to the very last second,
Yeah.
the very last minute they
Yeah.
do that. So the last campaign cycle you had both of the candidates going basically to midnight or whatever it was.
Oh,
till the
yeah,
next
yeah,
day.
yeah.
And they would campaign in 3 or 4 or 5 cities within the last couple of days. So they just want to make sure, especially what they call the swing states,
Yeah.
the ones that can go either way.
Yeah.
So they really heavily emphasize those states then too.
My state, which is Iowa, where I lived 10, 15 years, is a swing state.
It was, now it's not.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it was a swing state,
State.
and when Obama was there, it was blue, so it was
Yeah,
more Democratic. But then when Trump came along, it turned red. Now it's a lot red.
It's not right?
Yeah, my
It's-
state though, Wisconsin, is a swing state, and will always remain pretty much a swing state
Big.
because they have 2 big cities, and this is typically how it goes. You have the big cities, which have a lot of Democratic voters, and on the rural areas, those are more of the conservative voters.
Yeah.
And so there's 2 big cities, Madison and Milwaukee, which tend to have most of the votes and everything around it.
Yeah.
But then outside of that are all conservative votes. So this cycle, it went to Republican. Last one, it was Democrat. Then the one before that, Republican. Then when Obama, it was Democrat for a while. And I think Trump was the first in a while, and maybe like in 20 years to flip it.
So it's flipped into now
so-
it's like a red
so
state.
it can go either way
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. So I think in Singapore it was a pretty clear cut, like, the opposition stronghold will stay in opposition stronghold. The PAP stronghold will definitely stay in PAP
Right.
stronghold.
There's only a few, and they
Yeah.
did kind of surprise me. The Tampines.
Oh, yeah, four-way.
Tampines. It was Punggol, and
Punggol
then
is really
Jalan?
Jalan Karu. Okay.
Jalan Kayu,
Which
yeah.
was we'll talk about that. So I think most of you would know, like, Jalan Karu was a kind of like a hot topic area because we have the Mr. N from NTUC was running, and he lost. He lost Senggang 5 years ago. I remember that because one of our patients used to work under Diwakin. Like, after he lost, he was like, yeah, I'm not sure if I will have a boss by coming on Monday. So he lost at Senggang, and he come back again to participate in Jalan Karu. Then his opponent is Adrian Low, which is a relatively young member of the opposition's Workers' Party. Actually,
Both of them had a little bit of.
yeah, like a trade-off. You get one, I get one. That was very controversial. But he was won by very, very close margin, was like 51%. But I feel like for the next 5 years, Mr. N is gonna be living under a microscope,
Yeah.
So we're gonna see in the next 5 years. At that time, I was quite surprised. PAP have many candidates. Why choose him? So I actually asked ChatGPT, like, what would be why the PAP choose him? Apparently, the parties really focus on loyalties. He has been serving the party for many, many years, and they do believe a second chance. So this can be his redemption.
That can be good.
Yeah.
If you feel that there's potential still,
Yeah,
we'll
so-
give you a second chance.
Yeah.
But you have to kind of prove yourself, right? So I can at least see it from that perspective that if you want to give him a second chance,
Yeah,
and I guess
yeah.
he did prove it.
Yeah, he did prove. I mean, a very slim margin, but I think even like today, when you see in the news, he was like, "Okay, I don't want to take any designated role. I just want to serve my constituency."
Okay, good.
So that's
Good,
good. I
hopefully.
mean, he's taking his second chance very seriously and really redeem himself. Maybe he'll leave a legacy. So we'll see for the next 5 years. Talking about conservative, there are a lot of oppositions, manifestos out there.
Some are a bit
Very conservative.
Well, you looked at because CNA had this list, and it's just a broad, basic, where their views are and whatnot. And some of them are a bit questionable.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
kind of look at like, okay, what would be the thought process behind
Yeah.
them mentioning that too? Some of them I agree with, and then others I'm like, I don't necessarily know about that.
Yeah.
Too. And there's a few parties, and these are primarily the opposition. Just why they would go about doing it, or why they would think that then too, and why it could have hurt them politically in certain aspects.
Yes. And I think the final voting, it really shows that way that the Singaporeans
Want stability.
want stability. It was
Yeah.
a very clear message out there, especially in this very uncertain times, two
tariff
major
war.
powers, tariff war, trade war, war is still going on.
Right. Well, it's always nice to hold people accountable. If you go ahead and you go ahead just change everything, that's going to create a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
And you don't really want that in uncertain times.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the citizens were basically saying is that, there's a lot of turmoil going on, a lot of uncertainty going on in the world. We don't necessarily want to move forward.
With a lot of changes.
With a lot of changes, because
Yeah.
who knows how that's going to affect everything.
Yeah.
But, we've kind of seen what's been going on. We like how everything is.
Stability
And everything like
yeah.
that. So let's just keep moving forward with that. Then too. And I
Exactly.
think that's what was basically what it came down to when the votes were all in. That people just want that stability, at least during these times here when you don't necessarily know.
There is a Workers' Party who is the biggest opposition out there, who gained about 10 seats from this elections. Then they're gonna additional two more. This is something very interesting, the so-called non-elected MP. So this one is basically given to the two best quote-unquote losers of. This
Is that how they put it?
Yeah. Because most likely Andrea from the Jericho will get that seat because among all the people who lost, he has the highest.
Okay.
vote.
It's
So
kind of like
he-
a consolation prize. But
I don't know. From our perspective, it's like okay, consolation prize.
I guess.
Yeah, consolation prize for the two because I think by law they still want some kind of opposition seats in the parliament to give a more like a diverse voice to the
Right,
government.
and that's good that they have that.
Yeah.
Again, checks and balances. To at least have that there then.
Yeah. So the non-elected members usually will try to give a non-partisan view, which is good. Like give more of a neutral perspective. In that. Yeah. So I find that was quite interesting because that is definitely not possible in the U.S. election.
Like here you go. Like no.
Yeah.
You have to gain it.
Exactly. So in the U.S., is it compulsory to vote?
They can if they want to.
Yeah.
And so I know here, obviously, you get penalized if you don't vote.
Yeah.
I think you lose your voting rights. I think you have to pay a fine
to register yourself.
To register and do it again then too. But in the United States, no. I think, last time they talked about the total votes, I think President Trump had like 77 million. Kamala Harris had like 75, 74 million, around that. So many people didn't vote. And, it's compulsory. You don't have to necessarily do it. But if you really are not liking what you're seeing, obviously then you should probably voice
out,
concerns on that.
Yeah, exactly. So they also have the absentee ballot.
Yeah.
Like you can choose not to vote. So that I thought that was quite interesting. Even with that, they still have.
But I didn't know in a country that basically takes away your right to vote if you don't vote. It's nice to actually have that.
To mandatory.
Yeah, it's mandatory. You have to do it.
it.
And you should do it because if you want your voice or concern
Yeah.
with certain things, this is the way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, but their voting age here in Singapore is about 21 years old.
Yeah.
Compared to US, it was 18, right? Yeah.
And this is interesting because I know there's been talk about lowering the age. And I think I had a discussion with one of my patients who is a local about this because now I'm coming this from the Western view and whatnot. Now, like I said, the voting age is 18. At age 18, you can enter the military. You can own a gun.
Cannot drink, but you can drive and go.
Own a gun. Go to Walmart and get yourself a shotgun or a rifle there to hunt deer. So my thought process on this too, when you talk about that, is that if you're in the States and you can join the military, you can fight for your country, you can defend it and whatnot, you should at least have a say on who sends you there.
But this is an interesting fact. Remember during the Vietnam War, like there's many young voters are not necessarily agree with the U.S. troop in Vietnam.
Right.
But I was too sorry, here's a gun, so you have to go.
Where I was thinking that if that were the case here, because at age 18 you enter NS.
Yeah.
And my thought process was that, okay, if you're entering NS, you have to enter NS, you should at least have a say on who
was sent you
to war, or at least defend your country, right? You want to put that into place that if I'm going to vote for somebody who's going to send me to protect Singapore and whatnot, I at least want to have a say in that then too as well. Because then people in the United States, they don't all join the military just to defend their country. There's other career opportunities. The military can pay for your schooling. I have a relative who went to the military, into the Navy, and she became a dentist.
So for some people, it's like military is a very reputable career path.
Right. And then my patient kind of pointed out too that she doesn't necessarily agree with it, but at the same time, she feels that because at age 18 here, you're just entering NS or maybe you're entering school and whatnot, you haven't entered the workforce yet.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you won't enter the workforce yet until after you graduate, till in your early to mid 20s. So you don't have a really idea how everything around you works, so to speak. So you can't necessarily voice your opinion because you haven't been out in the workforce yet, you haven't done anything. So they feel that it'd be too young at age 18 to actually voice your opinion because you don't necessarily know how everything works outside.
And then because for some NS with schooling, or some people want to go to finish a part of the degree they're going to join, so they don't necessarily join NS at 18, so they can delay 1 or 2 years, then join the NS. Maybe there's something that the MP can champion in the future, lower the voting age to 18.
But I'm kind of curious what the overall, what do local Singaporeans think about it? Do they want to do it? Does that make sense? Or do you think, do you think it should remain the way it is? Or do you think they should be lowered if they're going into the military and whatnot, that maybe should have more of a voice? Or maybe because they haven't entered the workforce yet, they don't necessarily know how everything works per se, because your mind changes. I mean, the way I view things when I went into college is a lot different 20 years now than what it is back then. So, it's good to actually have a bit more real world perspective and experience
before you make any
before you get into it.
Exactly. So, tell us what you think. If you are a young viewer or Gen Z watching, or give us a comment like, should we lower the voting age to 18, or should we stay status quo as what it is right now? Okay, so one culture I wanted to point out here is, in the US, you always have the negative campaign. Do not vote for this senator.
He did this like we know with Trump.
But here I think everybody was really pretty professional.
But for the most part, compared to what goes on in the United States, to look for any sort of dirt on you. And exploit it. There's even, for instance, in the past, what some Democrats will do is that they'll actually pay for a lot of the campaigning done for these ultra MAGA candidates, hoping that they get elected, and then once they get to face the candidate who's a Democrat, they will wipe the floor with them. Get the lesser, the crappier candidate to get elected, and that way you know that the Democrat was just going to blow them away.
It's like you're grooming a terrible opponent, and hopefully you can the politics.
So you'll see some of these ads that they'll do it and they'll say, "I'll pay for by the Democratic Party," but it's actually promoting this Trump candidate, who the other candidate is more moderate, but because they're promoting this, they're trying to get that one over that, because the more moderate one tends to be more
usually
lenient, more flexible, can bring in some more independence and whatnot, that kind of thing.
Well, the campaign was running like pretty professional. You have rallies, people just, no matter which party you choose to, I can see like all the candidates really have passion for the country. And
they
just want,
they want what's best for
which
right?
It should be, right? Like you're like they're the leader of the country. You just want your country to be better, not necessarily serve your own purpose. Yeah.
It was interesting that in the previous years, I think we lived in the condos, so you didn't really see it, but now that we live in more HDBs, you see a lot more of the campaigning going on.
Oh, yes,
you see the vehicles driving by from each party promoting, because I didn't really witness that 5 years ago, obviously during COVID. You can't really see it because of these rallies.
Exactly.
But then in 2015, when they had the other election, I mean, we were just new.
We were really. Exactly. And over the years, we do have more and more. Most of our friends are Singaporeans. We like to hear the opinions, and it seems like everybody really have done the research. They're not just saying, "Oh, I vote for this person because I don't like the other."
Or loyal to the party. And then yes, and I know it does happen with every election. They're just loyal no matter what. They'll try to defend it. They're very biased, but I think there's a bit more people with opinionated.
They did like put some thoughts behind why they make that decision, and they're pretty respectful. Like some of our friends, some of the patients said, I vote for this party, but my husband vote for the other party. We just respect each other's opinions, and I just move on from that. So I thought it was pretty mature, that people like don't take this as die or sink or flow situations.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then
the country is doomed because you
in the
do
United
this.
States, no matter what happens, it's just like doom.
Exactly.
But at the same time, they always kind of doom everything.
Exactly.
Because it becomes more emotional. Those are on the very far end of the spectrum. Anybody who's rational will think, well, no, that's not the case. And they kind of get annoyed.
Yeah, and then we want to point out, like for this year, we have 2 independent candidates who did fairly well, considered a very short period of campaigning, and how young they are. They are quite young, so we can see like, more young people are taking
it's good that they're taking a role.
Yeah, exactly, voice and opinions.
And when you see more of the younger getting more involved in politics, it's good. Because they're very passionate about what goes on. They want to make sure they make a difference.
Yeah, exactly. Because whatever decision we're making right now is really for the future, right? We have to leave something for the future rather than focus on the present. All right. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Jab, and thank you for your time to spend for the last 15 or 20 minutes with us. So, for us, this is probably one of the years we really can immerse into this election process. And some culture shock, like we shared that before. So I find that was super refreshing.
So let us know if there's something more you want to see, maybe more of our thoughts and opinions on. We lived in Singapore for quite some time. We're doing some different videos, trying to keep things a little bit fresh. It isn't always just interviews and whatnot. Maybe there's something else you want to talk about. And it's just kind of giving a little bit of perspective from 2 foreigners and how everything goes.
2 foreigners.
And if you have any
complete backgrounds.
And if you like this and you have any other suggestions for that we can talk about, or anything that we could look into, we definitely do our research on it and see how things go. But we definitely see how we can implement that.
Into our next video. So thank you for your time. Tell us, what you think about this GE election. Although the video coming out, maybe it's about a week or 2 after the elections, but share your opinions. And what are your aspirations for Singapore for the next 5 years? Do leave your comment below. So thank you for your time, and we will see you next time.